the Jewel Wasp. Let's start with something straight out of a horror movie. The Jewel Wasp doesn't just kill its prey, it turns cockroaches into obedient zombies. Here's how this works. The wasp stings the cockroach twice. The first sting paralyzes the front legs. The second sting? That's the truly diabolical part. It injects venom directly into the cockroach's brain, specifically targeting the areas that control escape reflexes. Now here's where it gets really creepy. The cockroach isn't dead or even fully paralyzed. It can still walk and move, but its desire to run away? Completely gone. The wasp then grabs the cockroach by its antennae like a leash and walks it to a burrow. The cockroach follows obediently like a dog on a walk. Once they're in the burrow, the wasp lays an egg on the cockroach's abdomen and leaves. When the larva hatches, it burrows into the still-living cockroach and eats it from the inside out, carefully avoiding vital organs to keep its food fresh. Nature can be absolutely brutal. Toxoplasma Gondii. This one might already be living in your brain right now. Toxoplasma Gondii infects roughly 1/3 of all humans on Earth, and its mind control abilities are legitimately disturbing. This parasite can only sexually reproduce inside cats, so it has evolved an incredible strategy to get back to its feline hosts. When Toxoplasma infects a rat or mouse, it actually changes the rodent's behavior. Infected rats lose their natural fear of cat urine. In fact, they become attracted to it. They literally seek out the smell of their predators. This is mind control on a molecular level. The parasite creates cysts in the rodent's brain and alters neurotransmitter production, particularly dopamine. But here's the unsettling part for us humans. Studies have shown that Toxoplasma might subtly change human behavior too. Infected people show slightly increased risk-taking behavior, slower reaction times, and some research even suggests links to conditions like schizophrenia. The parasite is usually harmless in healthy adults, but the fact that a microscopic organism can potentially influence human personality is genuinely unnerving. You can get it from undercooked meat or from cleaning cat litter boxes, which is why pregnant women are told to avoid changing litter boxes. Toxoplasma can be dangerous to developing fetuses. The tongue-eating louse. Imagine something crawling into your mouth and replacing your tongue. That's exactly what Simathoa exigua does to fish. This marine parasite is the only known organism that functionally replaces an entire organ of its host. The louse enters a fish through its gills and makes its way to the tongue. It then attaches itself to the base of the tongue and drinks the blood supply. As it feeds, the tongue gradually withers away and dies from lack of blood flow. But the louse doesn't just destroy the tongue and leave, it actually takes its place. The parasite attaches itself where the tongue used to be and becomes a fully functional replacement tongue. The fish can use the louse to manipulate food just like it used its original tongue. The fish continues living relatively normally, eating and functioning, but with a parasite permanently installed in its mouth. The louse feeds on the fish's blood and mucus for the rest of its life. What makes this extra creepy is that from the outside, you might not even notice. The fish looks normal until you open its mouth and see this crustacean sitting there pretending to be a tongue. Guinea worm. This parasite has tormented humans for thousands of years. It's even mentioned in ancient Egyptian texts. The guinea worm causes one of the most painful parasitic infections known to medicine, and the traditional removal method is genuinely medieval. People get infected by drinking water containing tiny copepods that carry guinea worm larvae. Once inside the human body, the larvae mature in the digestive system. After about a year, a female worm, which can grow up to 3 feet long, migrates to the lower limbs, usually the legs or feet. When the worm is ready to release its larvae, It creates an intensely painful blister on the skin, usually on the foot. The burning sensation is so severe that people instinctively seek relief by putting their foot in water. The moment the blister touches water, the worm emerges and releases thousands of larvae, contaminating the water source and continuing the cycle. The only way to remove the worm is to slowly wind it around a stick over the course of days or weeks, pulling out just an inch or two per day. Pull too fast and the worm breaks, causing serious inflammation and infection. This ancient method is still used today and might actually be the origin of the medical symbol, the rod of Asclepius with a snake wrapped around it. Thanks to eradication efforts, guinea worm is nearly extinct, but it still exists in a few African countries. Cordyceps fungi. If you've played The Last of Us, you know about Cordyceps. While it doesn't infect humans, what it does to insects is the real-life inspiration for countless zombie stories. Different Cordyceps species target specific insects. There are varieties for ants, beetles, wasps, and more. When spores infect an insect, the fungus grows inside its body, consuming non-essential tissues first. But the truly remarkable part is the mind control. In carpenter ants, the fungus manipulates the ant's behavior, forcing it to leave its colony and climb to a specific height on a plant, usually about 25 centimeters above ground, on the north side of the plant, where temperature and humidity are optimal. The ant then clamps its jaws onto a leaf in a death grip and dies. The fungus then grows a long stalk from the ant's head, like something out of an alien movie. This stalk produces a fruiting body that releases spores down onto the forest floor below, where more ants will pass by and become infected. The precision is remarkable. The fungus knows exactly where to position its host for maximum spore dispersal. Scientists have discovered that Cordyceps actually controls the ant's muscles directly, like a puppeteer. The ant's brain might already be dead, but the fungus keeps the body moving. Sacculina. This barnacle parasite does something almost unthinkable. It castrates crabs and turns males into females. Sacculina is possibly one of the most invasive parasites in the animal kingdom. The parasite starts as a microscopic larva that finds a crab and injects just a few cells through the crab's shell. These cells are basically undifferentiated stem cells. Once inside, they grow root-like tendrils throughout the crab's entire body, infiltrating every organ and tissue. The crab becomes essentially a shell being worn by the parasite. Sacculina then destroys the crab's reproductive organs and takes over its hormonal system. If the crab was male, the parasite chemically feminizes it, changing its body shape and behavior to match that of a female crab. Why? Because the parasite produces its own reproductive sac that emerges where the crab's eggs would normally be. The crab then treats this parasitic sac as if it were its own eggs, protecting it, grooming it, and even fanning it with oxygenated water. When the parasite's larvae are ready, the crab performs spawning behaviors, helping to release thousands of parasite larvae into the water. The crab has been turned into an involuntary surrogate parent for its own destroyer. The crab will never reproduce. It exists only to serve the parasite. Leucochloridium. This parasite has evolved one of nature's most bizarre and spectacular manipulation techniques. Leucochloridium needs to get from snails into birds to complete its life cycle, so it turns snails into flashing neon signs that scream, "Eat me." When a snail ingests bird droppings containing the parasite's eggs, the larvae hatch and travel to the snail's eye stalks. There, they form colorful, pulsating structures that look remarkably like caterpillars, a favorite food of many birds. These structures throb and pulse in rhythmic patterns that catch birds' attention. But that's not enough for this parasite. It also changes the snail's behavior. Normally, snails are nocturnal and hide in dark, moist places during the day. Infected snails do the opposite. They climb to exposed, sunny locations and stay there, making themselves highly visible to predators. The pulsating eye stalks look so much like caterpillars that birds can't resist. They swoop down and bite off the snail's eye stalks. The snail usually survives this attack. It can even regenerate its eye stalks, though they'll just get infected again. The parasite ends up in the bird's digestive system where it reproduces, and its eggs are released in bird droppings waiting for another snail to come along. Horsehair worms. Let's end with something that seems almost supernatural. Horsehair worms are parasites of insects, particularly crickets and grasshoppers, and their mind control abilities are disturbingly effective. The worm lives inside the insect as it grows, sometimes reaching lengths several times longer than its host. When it's ready to emerge and reproduce, which it can only do in water, the worm manipulates its host's brain chemistry. The infected insect becomes irresistibly drawn to water, something it would normally avoid. Crickets have been observed walking directly into streams, pools, or even toilets. Once the insect enters the water, the worm bursts out of its body in dramatic fashion, emerging as a long, writhing thread that can be 12 inches or more in length. The insect usually dies, either from the trauma or by drowning. What makes this particularly creepy is watching it happen. The worm seems impossibly large to have fit inside the insect's body. Videos of horsehair worms emerging from their hosts are the stuff of nightmares. This long, alien-looking creature just keeps coming and coming out of what seems like a normal cricket or grasshopper. The insect was essentially a zombie vehicle being driven by a parasitic passenger that overrode all its survival instincts to complete its own life cycle.